right. It is
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you to everyone who joined us and those potentially joining online. I'm Kate Sneed, House District 6A Captain. Sean just ran to the CVS down the street to see if he could get the right equipment so that we can use the projector. Karen, who's our 6B co-captain, is over here, and Rachel and Andrew are both unable to join us tonight, so it's just us. So first of all, we hope everyone received our email this morning, and we apologize sincerely for overlooking the calendar overlaps, and we wish everyone a happy Kol Nidra today, and we will ensure we don't make those mistakes again in the future. Also, the church just came down and said there's a silver Jeep license plate 030QLW, I believe is what he said, that is sticking out in the parking lot and needs to be moved so it does not get hit. So if that is your car, please consider moving it. All right, so what we're going to be doing tonight, and I'm too far from the mic, but then I'm not close enough to this one, so I might move the microphone. Cha-ching? Yeah, totally. We have a couple of candidates tonight. We have our clerk and recorder here to talk with us about election security, and then we're going to talk about GOTV and our GOTV plan. Ballots go out in less than 2 weeks, a week and a half, October 17th. So we will hopefully be able to demonstrate how we will use the texting software and be able to demonstrate that all to you. So with that, we are going to start with our candidates, and then we will go into our clerk and recorder's presentations. So we had Sean randomly pick names, and Travis, we're going to go ahead and have you go first, and then Jeff will go right after. So we've saved 5 minutes for presentation, 5 minutes for questions as usual, but if you want to use that differently.
All right.
And I'm going to move this while you...
I'm going to have to stand in the camera shot here.
Yes, please do.
All right, hopefully I'm checking in, checking out. All right, well, thank you all, House District 6 Democrats, for inviting me to speak today. My name is Travis Leiker. I'm a candidate for Denver City Council at large, running in the municipal elections for April of 2023, April 4th to be exact. And before I get started with my comments about my background and what I'm hoping to accomplish on council, I thought it would be helpful to open it up to you all to just give me a quick pulse and read on how you're feeling about the future of the city and the state of the city right now. And we can go with hands raised, or we could go Socratic method, and I'll just call on people at random. Why don't we start with Wendy?
What am I doing?
Thoughts and perspectives about the state of the city.
A philosophical question from the very beginning?
From the very beginning, that's the way we roll.
Thoughts about this? Well, I think we really need to focus on our transportation, our multimodal and our mass transit situation. That's the key to addressing some of our major issues in the city, and I'm worried about that because I don't think anyone really considers that to be a serious problem, except you and maybe a few other people. So I would like to focus on that. Was that the answer?
That's great. That's great. Anybody else have immediate thoughts about the state of Denver? Yes. Alex.
Hi. I think we got a serious housing shortage in the city.
Yep.
The state itself, but yes, the city. So hopefully we'll see someone who focuses on a lot more low-income housing, and I think that'd be great. So
Yep.
that's my main concern.
Mr. Clerk and Recorder, you got a thought?
Man, the clerk and recorder's office is so underfunded.
Got it.
Not the means necessary.
Done. Fixed. See ya.
As someone whose grandfather died at Denver General as a homeless person on Larimer, and whose grandmother died in Pueblo Mental Institution that
Yep.
has since been deinstitutionalized. We still haven't gotten our hands around mental health. I don't think Denver Cares is getting, the new initiatives getting, it feels very fragmented. And we really need, we need to be better than that. And it's certainly tied to the housing shortage as well, and a lot of things have complicated.
Thank you so much for that. One more?
I'm growing more concerned, I have been concerned, but about the number of police-involved shootings that are taking
Yep.
place in the city, you know, both recently and past.
Thank you. Anybody have other? You?
I'm really concerned about the homelessness.
Yep. Well, thank you all so much for sharing your thoughts. So I come to this race running citywide to bring citywide solutions to the most vexing issues of the day. So I was born in Kansas in the early 1980s to two hardworking parents who worked their way up through the ladder to put food on the table and to make ends meet for us. We moved all across the country. I lived in 6 states before I was 16, all throughout the South and upper Midwest. And so when I moved to Denver, I realized that I was home. And here's why. Because as a young, closeted gay teen, I realized that there were people who were just like me in the Mile High City. And for me, that meant something, as well as a place where I could set roots. And so when I graduated from college, from CU Boulder, I moved as quickly as I could to Denver because a great mentor once told me that you commute for your job, not for your life. And I knew that this is where I wanted to establish roots and where I wanted my life to be. I started out my career as an advisor to then philanthropist Jared Polis, who is now our governor, and have been working in the progressive movement since then. I worked at Conservation Colorado to elect pro-conservation champions to public office. I worked at the White House Project to train women to run for public office as well. And then for the last 9 years, I've worked at the University of Colorado, spearheading significant development activities for the institution, ranging from diversity scholarships to large-scale budgets to public-private partnerships that have helped build the academic medical institution that you see out to the east in Aurora. But I also have worked for other institutions within the CU system, healthcare, education, and the other campuses and the like. Concurrent to all of that, professionally, I have been on boards and commissions throughout the course of my career. I was president of the board of NARAL Pro-Choice Colorado, which fought for reproductive rights and freedoms for women all across the state. At that time, it was in dicey situation. It was nearly bankrupt until I became the chair of the board when nobody else said yes to the job. And we now turned it around, and now Cobalt Advocates is alive and well and thriving and championing important causes at this time. Secondly, I've been president for the last 7 years of Capitol Hill United Neighborhoods, Denver's largest registered neighborhood organization and one of the oldest, the second oldest in the city. Same situation, once on the brink of bankruptcy. Just 7 years ago, we turned it around, and now we have a $1 million endowment and have formed a public-private partnerships. And I tell you those things in terms of my track record and my work history, as well as these turnaround stories, because I do think Denver is in need of a turnaround. I think to say that it's not in need of a turnaround would be an understatement. And here's why. Crime is on the rise. Homelessness continues to be a vexing issue. Housing costs are skyrocketing. And we're struggling with some of the basics and the most elemental services of the city, ranging from staffing shortages to what to do about our airport and its budget shortfall and the like. And when you go back and you look at articles detailing the 1983 election, when Federico Peña was elected mayor and a handful of other pioneers and giants in Denver politics were elected, we were faced with the same situation: crime, homelessness, housing costs. There were also conversations about an airport. There were also conversations about infrastructure and what to do. So this is the most consequential election in 40 years. And we don't have time for on-the-job training for this role. We don't have time for tweeting and vitriol. We have got to get back to governing and running an efficient city. So here's what I want to accomplish. One, if you want to see inequities in city planning, look no further than our sidewalks. You can see the history of redlining, poor treatment of communities of color, and other marginalized populations just by virtue of looking at the sidewalks. So we need to invest more in our sidewalk infrastructure. But we have to invest in other community assets. Tonight we're going to be hearing about libraries. and why it's important to invest more in our libraries. Schools, we have to invest in parks and recreation for all Denverites, not just those who live in the nice corridors or who have the many blessings of life, but every Denverite. We have to get better about doing business. To the clerk and recorder's point, right now there are just 2 staffers right now administering the Denver Fair Elections Fund, which is a matching program, a quasi-public financing program at the city. We have got to increase budgets across the city so that we can have the staffing levels that are necessary for a city of our size. In many departments right now, ways of doing business, and so we have to both increase our staffing resources, but also improve our treatment of our staff and also give them the latitude to be innovative and creative. And then finally, with respect to the other vexing issues of the day, homelessness and housing. The reality is in the context of housing, we have to build more housing. Most studies tell us we're 50,000 to 150,000. That's the way we're going to aid those who are unhoused, and that's how we did it. So in terms of organizational turnaround, operating complex budgets, leaning in to help those who are unhoused, advocating for smart development solutions, I bring the receipts, and that's why I'm bringing my whole self to this city council race, and I'm ready to take on the job starting next year. So with that, I'll take questions. If I have time for them. Am I good on time? 2 questions, all right.
Well, this might be a hard question. Okay.
All right.
So everything you just said sounds wonderful,
Yes.
but I don't see any way that you can do anything unless you raise taxes. Because I know for sure, we already happen to raise taxes to get better library stuff,
Yeah.
right? They already asked us for more money for sidewalks.
Yeah.
And then, I mean,
Great question. Are you asking if we're going to have to raise taxes? Historically, Denver is very generous and kind as it relates to increasing our revenues, be it bonding or tax increases. And so I'm open to ideas that are going to be smartly designed and effectively implemented. So I'm not going to say wholesale that I'm against or for, but rather I need to evaluate the proposals as they come forward before we take a stance on hypotheticals, for example. But what I can also tell you is I was shocked to learn that, so CU, where I work now, has twice the budget as the city and county of Denver. And my campus, just the Anschutz Medical Campus, is a $5 billion enterprise. The city and county of Denver budget is $1.2 billion. And that tells me a couple of things. One, you need people who know how to understand and know how to read and know how to formulate budgets in this gig. That's going to be super important. I bring that. 2, I have worked in complex institutions with myriad levels of bureaucracy, and so how do you take the money you have and do amazing things with it if you have those resources available? 3, I bring to the table relationships that are in the private sector, the philanthropic sector, and other generous individuals in the community. So if we have a need, say a park cleanup or a mural, I'm confident that I can help have those conversations to bring various parties to the table. So it's not necessarily wholesale, again, tax increases. It's more of how do we do what we need to get done with what we have, and then how do we go out and pursue the resources that we need in order to accomplish new things. Next question. All right, well with that, I think we have more candidates, so we'll be respectful of their time too. Thank you all.
Thank you, Travis. I appreciate that very much. And our next candidate for Denver City Council at Large is Jeff Walker.
Stand closer to the mic, or the...
It's Jeff Walker.
There you go.
Thank you very much. I'm Jeff Walker. I'm a candidate for Denver City Council at Large. Before I get started, I have to take a moment and remember somebody who helped get me started on this road. When I moved to my house in 2003, I stumbled into a neighborhood organization meeting. It was called the WUCA, West University Community Association. And Katie Fisher and the rest of the board members were there. And anyway, by the end of the night, I was on the board. she was there at my start, and she encouraged me, her and another lady named Barb Steinmeier, who's no longer with us either. But they really encouraged me to keep going. Before, I'd just been a workhorse. You know, I'd pass out literature since I was a little boy, but I hadn't taken the step to be somebody who would make decisions. I just did what I was told. They believed in me, they encouraged me, both Barb and Katie. And I'm going to miss Katie very greatly. I found out yesterday that she had passed away. So I want to thank her and thank you all for being here. So that's how I got my start. So the reason I'm running for city council is because I think I have enough experience in things that I've done in Denver, starting back in that fall day in 2003, to add value to the decision-making process that it takes to run a city. So some of the things that I've done are, I've served on the RTD Board of Directors for 9 years. I was on Denver's Planning Board for 6 years. I served on the GO-BOND Committee, infrastructure committees for the 07 and the 2017 bond issues that were let out. So we were the first cut before it went to council, and council got to rearrange that, but we were the first cut at that. I served on the Blueprint Denver Task Force that from 2016 to 2019. I was a founding member of my registered neighborhood organization, Rosedale Harvard Gulch, right there at Broadway and Evans. And I served as president in 2019, and I could go on and on about some other things that I participated in, some national boards, et cetera. So I think with all of that, I think I have enough experience to bring that reason, that rationale, that looking at the budgets, weighing the issues, looking at the system to help make those decisions that are needed. Most recently, and currently, I'm serving on the Task Force to Reimagine Policing and Public Safety that's been in existence since 2020. So all of that makes me feel that I can contribute. Some of the things, so my approach to public service is pretty similar to my professional experience. So I've been a planning director in Ohio, small town in Ohio. I've worked on transit plans in Cincinnati, or a transit study in Cincinnati. I work for CDOT here. I've worked for some design and engineering firms here, and currently I work for Excel. So most of my experience has been gathering public information, identifying the problem, then gathering public information, seeing what the possible solutions are, the pros and cons of each solution, taking that back out to the public and saying, what do you want us to do? Here are the pros and cons of whatever you do, and here's how much, of whatever you want, and here's how much it costs. So that's my professional experience, and I think that will come in handy, that the gathering of information, rather than this treating this like this is my position to shape Denver into my image. It's your position. I'm just the one sitting in the seat. That's how I see it. What's important to you is, what I believe is important to you, because it was important to me when I listened to candidates, is what does that candidate stand for? Why is that person qualified? So you've heard some things I've done. So what's important to me, though, are safe streets. Not safer streets, but just safe streets. Just out here, just a little south of where we are, starting at 4th Avenue South down to Alameda. There are sections of Colorado Boulevard, one of the busiest streets in the city, about 60,000 vehicles a day, at least 60,000 vehicles a day, go up and down that street, and there are places where you cannot walk on a sidewalk because it doesn't exist or it's ill-equipped. It's way too narrow and overgrown with vegetation. So that needs to end. So when I was a planning director in Ohio, at my confirmation hearing, the first question I got was, what are you going to do for the city? I said, build sidewalks. There was an area of Norton, Ohio that didn't have sidewalks, nor did it have plumbing or indoor plumbing, water lines or sewer lines. There were still outhouses in this one corner of the city that was right next to Akron, Ohio. And they said, well, what about the businesses? I said, we got to take care of the residents first. And I still got the job, even though I got into a small disagreement with the council that was appointing me. But that's how I feel about taking care of the people that are here and have contributed decades, years, days, doesn't matter. If they're here, we need to take care of them, and that's how I see it. Some of the other things that I feel strongly about are lowering speed limits. When New York City lowered its speed limit in the mid-teens, by 2017 it had 200 traffic fatalities. So a city 10 times the size of Denver had about only 4 times, I don't want to minimize and say only 4 times the amount of traffic fatalities, but it had a much lower rate of traffic fatalities than Denver did. I think we can accomplish that. The city of Oslo, Norway, I haven't read the report yet, but they just released their report, a city of about 700,000 people. They had 0 fatalities in the last couple of years. So I think we can get there. I have to read the report to see how they accomplished it, besides street design, lowering speeds, things like that. But I think we can get there. 1 fatality, traffic fatality, is way too many to find acceptable. Some of the other things that are important to me and things I think I bring to the table are police reform. Now, my experience with the police is next to nothing. I've been stopped twice, one time because my friend and I fit a description of 2 people that the police happened to be looking for at the time, and 5 minutes later I was on my way. The other time my car fit a description of a vehicle that the police were looking for. And I was in my early 20s, and 5 minutes later I was on my way. So I have not had a bad experience, and I have family members and friends that are in law enforcement. But I do believe that we ask police officers to do way too much for what they're trained to do. They get called out for everything, and so do firefighters also. I think we need to change that. Some of the money that is used to fund that $600 million public safety budget should be shifted to the Department of Public Health and Safety, Public Health and Environment, to help fund the STAR program, which only has about $4 million in it, but which could use 5 times that amount to do the job that's really needed to address those people that are suffering mental health crises at that moment. So those are some of the things that I feel real confident about, even though I'm extremely nervous right now, and I might not sound like I'm very confident. But those are things that I think I've been passionate about, and that I think I can bring to the table. Like I said, with RTD, I was one of 15 people that oversaw a $1.5 billion budget. I heard transit earlier as something that's very important to the city. I've been a bus rider since I was 14 years old, and I've lived in Minneapolis, Cincinnati, Cleveland, and even when I've had free parking somewhere, I still choose to ride the bus. I think that's because transit, I believe, increases access to housing, jobs, education, healthcare. And a lot of the ailments that we see in Denver can be mitigated by improving access, not with a vehicle, not with a personal vehicle, but through public access. And that also includes improving the sidewalks, making the streets safe, improving housing options, et cetera. So,
2 questions.
2 questions. Okay, so I could talk forever about this stuff, but one-on-one is my forte. So, are there any questions? Yes.
Do you have any examples of other cities' reports or data that would be helpful as you try to work with the homeless issue?
So the question was, are there other cities out there that I've studied about that have had success with housing the homeless? So Houston has been in the news lately as a success story. That's one example that we can look to, and incidentally, Houston looked to the Denver Road Home as its model when it instituted its program. However, cities are very different. There are geographic, topographic, climate differences between cities. Houston doesn't have zoning, so you can build anything anywhere. The labor costs in Houston and building costs in Houston are much lower. So there are advantages there. And someone told me who used to live in Houston told me the other day that Houston has a lot of FEMA money because they get hit with hurricanes so often. So so they have that system of building houses quickly in place. That's not something Denver has. That doesn't mean that there aren't things that we can't emulate or copy from Houston's experience, which copied some of our aspirations. But so that's one. But I lived in Cleveland. There are homeless folks in Cleveland. As many vacant lots as there are in Cleveland and Cincinnati. We can work on it. And that's exactly what I did on RTD's board. I looked at other cities, see how their transit agencies adopted methods, styles, financing. It's a tough road, but yes, there are options out there and there are examples. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, what's your vision for the homeless problem?
House. So a couple months ago, I met a person in Las Vegas.
Move over just a little so you're in front.
So everybody can see you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know I was on camera. I'm sorry. So a couple months ago, I met somebody in the Las Vegas airport about 3 in the morning when we were both waiting for our planes. He had been homeless for about 10 years. He was kicked out when his roommates found out he was HIV positive. What got him off the streets, got him off of meth and all the other substances that he was misusing was somebody he ran into who had an extra house in Portland. Yeah, and he let him stay there. So get people out of the elements. That's one big worry that they don't have to worry about, and being moved down from corner to corner, right, becoming somebody else's issue to be addressed. So housing first, and that will solve probably, from what this guy told me, that will solve 80% of those persons' problem. Now people are homeless for different reasons, but the majority of the chronically homeless, from what I've been told, from what I've read, from the experiences people I've talked to, housing takes care of a big chunk of those problems, or it addresses them. Okay, so thank you for your time, thank you for your attention, thank you for being here.
All right, thank you very much, Jeff. And so those rounded are 2 at-large city candidates for this meeting. I would also like to point out that we have a candidate for District 5, Mike Hughes in the back. Mike, if you'd like to identify yourself. Mike will not be speaking tonight, but we will be inviting Mike back at a future meeting, so he'll have a chance to introduce himself more broadly. But feel free to talk to Mike and Jeff and Travis and get your questions answered, because that's what they're here for. So ask them really, really tough questions, okay? With that said, our next speaker is the Denver County Clerk and Recorder, Paul Lopez.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'm Paul Lopez. I'm your county clerk and recorder. I'm here in my official capacity. We have an election coming up. 22 days before the election is when you get your ballots, right? That's when that election starts. November 8th, election day, is the last day to vote, right? The last day to turn in your ballot. We want to kind of change that culture of how we think about election day, right? In Colorado, that's what's up. You get your ballot mailed to you. In Denver, we are going to send those ballots out. You're going to get them starting the weekend of October 17th. The UACAVA ballots, the overseas ballots, are already being shipped overseas. They've already been transmitted. We are in a live election. A couple of other things to remind you about. We switched from ballot trace to ballot tracks. We had our own ballot tracking software engine where you get text messages when your ballot is telling you late at night, hey, yo, I got printed. And then when it gets printed, when it gets sent to you, and then when we receive it and accept it for counting. That system has changed, so now it's ballot tracks. We are going with the vendor that the state uses, that all the other counties use. The reason why we did that is because it's easier for folks whose family members are not all living in Denver, which is very common, to be able to say, hey, you voting? Yeah, absolutely. You get your ballot? Yeah. You sign up for ballot tracks? Yeah. Wait, ballot trace? No ballot tracks or ballot tracks? We want to eliminate that kind of confusion. So no matter what county you call home, it's the same thing, right? The other thing, we are replacing an old system, an old ballot sorting system that used to kind of create a bottleneck in our processes. And after looking at that, we have gone from our Fluent system and we have partnered with Agilis to have a new ballot sorter. This thing just flies right through it. So it's has an optical scanner on it, scans those signatures. It does it at a faster rate. It's more efficient. That way, if there's any kind of mismatch on the signature verification process or an extra eyes that are needed by election judges, that bipartisan team would be able to do that with a system that's working more efficiently. So you would see that has been the increase in our budget. We were able to do that with it. We have a second one on order. They haven't made it yet, but it's something that we are wanting to do. You're going to see that increase in our budget. We do have an increase in our staff budget for our Fair Elections Fund staff. So yes, we only have 2, and those 2 are funded out of the Fair Elections Fund. That Fair Elections Fund is budgeted for $8 million. We are quickly approaching the end of that. It's my take that we may run out of money. And that's nothing I can do as your clerk and recorder. That's something that the council has to decide on. And that's something you and the public, should there be more money in that fund, right? In the meantime, we're increasing our budget so we can have a full-time staff that's paid out of the general fund to be able to help with that. Because right now we have 2 individuals that are going through all those contributions, all those receipts, verifying all that. It's insane, right? Meanwhile, we're still doing the public trustee work of administering our foreclosure process, still doing our city clerk functions, and running an election, and marrying people if you want to get hitched, and recording your documents, right? But we don't do returns on the marriages. I want you guys have to let people know in the community, like, you can buy the marriage, you do your marriage license here, but if you want a refund, that's the other building. People coming to us being like, hey, how do I get a refund on this? How do I file for divorce? Yo, that's the other building over there, man. So on the election, the 17th of October, your ballots are going to get to you. It's a 3-card ballot for most Denverites. There's some precincts where it's a 4-card ballot because they have a special district that they have to decide on. When that gets to you, make sure you fill it out, sign it, vote in how many ways, folks? How many different ways can you vote? In person. We have 37 vote centers ready to go, plus a Holland Votes. Well, not Holland Votes. We call it Voter Coach, but it's a boring ass name. We need a good name for this thing, like Votey McVoteface or something like that, right? By mail. It's so easy. Pop the postage on it. I always put 2 postage stamps just to be safe. Put it in the mail. Done. Easy. Easy peasy, right? Third is we now have 43 election boxes throughout the city and county of Denver. We have almost doubled it since I came to this office. The most recent one that we are announcing, we're gonna do a little presser on Thursday, is we partnered with Adams County and Arapahoe County at the MLK Library to do our first Tri-County box. Tri-County branded box. To basically be able to have coverage in an area where there's not enough public infrastructure. In order for us to put a box down, most likely 90% of the time, 99% of the time, that has to be public property. We have to have control over who puts the box down, over the infrastructure, over the lighting, and the video. It has to be accessible, not just to folks who walk, not just folks who have the privilege of seeing. That has to be accessible to everybody. There can't be trips, can't be too high of a degree on the slopes, the ramp up there. It has to be solid. It is state law. We have to be able to do that. There are some areas we are engaging with the communities around that area to actually identify another permanent box around there. This one's going to be permanent. It is a tri-branded box. Know that if you are a Jefferson County resident, you can put your ballot in our box and it'll get there. Okay? Consider it done. Jefferson County puts their boxes in, or mail ballots. I'm sorry, ballots. I'm forgetting English. I'm gonna speak Spanish instead. Si ustedes traen sus boletas y las entregan en nuestras cajas, nosotros podemos también hacer lo mismo. So if you're gonna be bringing that ballot and dropping it in a Denver box, and you live somewhere like in Eagle County, we'll get it to Eagle County. Okay, that's not a problem.
What if they put it there like the night of the election?
By 7 p.m.
By 7 p.m.?
By 7 p.m.,
But
yes,
they
we
put
get
in
it.
Eagle County.
After that, I'm sorry, no can do. You'll get a credit for having returned your ballot to us, but we cannot count that ballot if it's past 7 o'clock. But we actually do a ballot swap. We postmark the ballots that we have. Okay, not postmark. We timestamp them. If they're a ballot that we received, we know that we received it before 7 p.m. on election day. We get it to those counties, and they get us our ballots. We do a ballot swap the next day. Yes, ma'am.
Paul, what is the last day we can mail a ballot?
The last day you can mail a ballot, typically we say 8 days. Okay, get it a week, in a day, for you to get it in. Okay. Know that it's so easy. Get those folks out there. We have 37 vote centers, including that mobile, that voting McVoteface, and 43 boxes. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Can you take someone else's ballot to a ballot box?
Yes, you can.
How many can you take?
Up to 10.
Thank you.
Okay?
No.
Up to 10. So, yes.
What if people don't put a stamp or two stamps on their ballot?
So you don't need to put a stamp on it if you're going to take it to a drop box.
No.
But you should be putting it in the postage.
But what if they don't?
It gets
What
to us and we
happens to
take
it?
care of it on the other end. Yeah.
And then they ask for more taxes.
Well, just so we know. I mean,
If I was a postal worker, I'd want you to actually buy stamps and support what I'm doing.
yeah.
But that's just a union guy in me, right? But if it doesn't have a stamp on it, of course, it'll come to us. We got to deal with the USPS. They get it to us, and we take care of it on the back end, okay? Any other questions on the election coming up? Yes, ma'am.
If you were in ballot trace, did you automatically get rolled over?
Yes, we did.
To the new
We
one?
automatically rolled you over, but if you blocked us because you thought we were spam, then you probably got to do it again, okay? So this is what I'm saying. Make sure, even though y'all, I'm preaching to the converted. We are in a church. I need my little. But if you already are registered to vote, please go double check it. Even though if you didn't get hitched, even though you didn't change it, if you changed your name, or if you moved, or you didn't, please just go double check and then sign into that, sign up for it. Just double check it, okay? Yes, Ms. Epps.
Mr. Lopez, what is your goal, sir, this year of what percentage of the votes before November 8th are going to be counted in the 7 o'clock results?
100.
What's your goal?
100. I'm just kidding.
100%.
So my goal, I would love to have more, I would love to have 50% or more of our ballots counted before election day, okay? If we can get more than half in, that makes it easier on those of us that were actually running the election, your fellow election judges, your fellow citizens that are actually doing the work, okay? Vote early, that's a great question. Thank you for that. I would love to have that. Also, I'd like to have more people just put it in a box, right? Those vote centers are open, absolutely. But those boxes are where it's at. And I say that, and I'm speaking to my fellow Denverites, right, in our hometown, where we stand in privilege, where other counties only have one for the whole entire county. I'm talking about like Houston or Harris County, right? We have 43. Let's use them. They are in Swansea, they are in Baker, they're in the west side, they're in Montbello. There's 2 in Montbello, right? We got one going on in East Colfax. Yes?
Speaking of judges, what do you need?
So we need election judges of all backgrounds, right? We need bilingual, we need Democrat, unaffiliated, Green, Republican. If you are a Republican bilingual election judge, I would love to have you, right? This is our civic duty. This is the time where we have to protect our democracy and stand up for the country and not just for our party. Okay, it's country before party, especially when it comes to protecting this democracy, because there are people who are fighting and working really hard to take that vote out of your hands.
Can you do the training within the period?
Yeah, we can. We are looking for student election judges too. So you're going to hear me say over time, creating a culture of participation. You are, a very controversial statement. If you only vote once a year, you're a C+ student in democracy. If that's all we do, and we call ourselves a democracy, because we only vote once a year, that's a C+ student. What else are you doing every other day of the year to defend your democracy, to keep it healthy? What are we doing with our young people who have to wedge seats in doors, who wish they can vote, but only can register at 16 and can't even vote until 18? What are we doing to involve them? What are we doing to involve our new Americans who are part of this democracy, part of this country? They literally are building and maintaining the city that we are proud of. That shining city doesn't get shining overnight automatically. What are we doing with our folks who are incarcerated, in custody, and cannot vote and cannot afford their freedom, and that's the only reason that they're in there. But they can vote. I tell you what we're doing. We're continuing to register voters. The other day we sent our engagement team in there. One of our engagement folks came out with 158 new registrations. We have a VSPC that will be open in the county jail so that folks can vote in jail.
Are you going to
Right.
support our proposal to increase the prisons, make us state number 4?
I will absolutely support that, right? And this is the thing, like, it is absolutely critical. There are two myths also that I really want to bust right now, and I hope that you all can help me with this, right? One is the unhoused. If you are homeless, you can still vote, and you are ineligible, you can still vote. You just need a mailing address where we can send that mail ballot to you, and just when it says where you live, it can be anywhere. But Cheeseman Park, sadly, under the corner, under the Federal and 8th Bridge. I hate saying that because no human being should be outside of a home, but it is true. And they can use that as long as they have that mailing address, okay? Folks who are former felons, I get this all the time, especially in my neck of the woods, right? Well, I can't vote. I'm an ex-con. Well, yes, you can.
We changed that, right?
That law was changed. So you have to, these are my own family members. We have to let them know that they can participate, they can vote, okay? I know that there was one other question, and then I know you need to probably cut the time. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to change my language from a duty to a privilege.
Yes.
It is a privilege to vote.
Yes, it
so
is.
when I talk to people, I don't say, it's a duty, it's a privilege.
We've spilled blood in the streets and overseas for it. It's an absolute privilege, and people are fighting wars, civil wars across the country still, so they can do what we do, just to be a C+ voter, right? So, any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks again, Clerk and Recorder. I appreciate it very much. Last opportunity before we move on to our presentation for tonight. We do have some elected officials, or one that I can tell, Senator Rod Rodriguez. Would you like to speak a few minutes? What you have planned coming for the upcoming session, or holiday plans, or?
How are your dogs doing?
Yeah.
Make it fast.
Make it fast. My dogs are doing great. Thank you for the presentation. I think, as we all know, how many days election, but I was looking at the calendar today, we're literally 2 weeks away from ballots going out in the mail. So time's crunching. I don't know if any of you or some of you went to the Denver dinner, but you know, it's very important that Denver turns out the vote. So some of the presentations, the GOTV efforts that are going to talk about tonight are very important because Denver's turnout, which maybe wasn't super great in the primary because we had not a lot of things on the ballot, we have to get turnout here to carry the statewide elections that will help us control Congress and all the other stuff. So it's important for what we get to do. It's a lot of the work I've been doing on the side legislatively. Not a lot, I'm working on some bills, but a lot of them will depend on the majorities. So, you know, I have some bills that would be bipartisan. I have some bills that I need the majority to pass. So, so working really hard on that, whether it's in Jeffco for Lisa Cutter, Adams for Kyle Mullica, Arapahoe County for Tom Sullivan, Pueblo for Henriksen, Exum in Colorado Springs, or Dylan Roberts up in the county, up in the mountains. So those are the margins. Like I said, we have right now a 21 margin. I'd prefer not to go in with an 18-1 margin. As many of you might have heard, we had a Republican switch parties, which, okay, that gives us, that's good for us because we still could control committees, but an 18-17 margin, he is not pro-abortion, he is not pro a lot of things, guns, all the other stuff, the things that are important to us in Denver will be really hard to pass. So that is the priority for at least what I've been working on. Maybe after the election I can come and talk about policy because then I'll say, okay, I'm gonna ram this policy down people's throat because it's good for us and good for Democrats. So, but thank you for all you do, and I came to listen to the GOTV efforts because I want to help out, turn out the votes here too. So I think it's a very important endeavor. So thanks.
Thank you. So, one housekeeping issue. We did have someone who lost their glasses. So if you lost your glasses, we'll have them up here at the table. I was recognizing candidates, but I forgot to recognize one in particular. We have Elizabeth Epps here for House District 6. Elizabeth, you'd like to say a few things?
district, so we're trying to prioritize here too. But I feel like no, just share them.
Good evening, y'all. I'm Elizabeth Epps, and I just
Stand right in front of that camera.
why break tradition? I feel like we have gotten this far in our relationship without me standing in front of this thing. I lost him already. I'll follow my elder statesman's lead on holding off on talking about bills, but the meetings are going really well, y'all. We're gonna pass a couple that are gonna be really wonderful and not even controversial, and we can all be proud. But we'll talk about that soon. I'm gonna read this to you, and then Kate maybe will let me sneak this in an email to the group. I wanted to tell you what the Denver Dems, those of us who are coming into office and who are in office, our weekend schedule for the next 5 weekends of who we're knocking for. Last weekend, Javier Mabry led us on a road trip to Garfield County. We got to knock on Lauren Boebert Street, and it'll be really exciting that Lauren Boebert is about to be represented in the State House of Representatives by a queer Latina firefighter, Elizabeth Velasco, who's going to smash that district. So for the weekends coming up, Saturday the 8th, we're going to be knocking for Sullivan and Arapahoe. Saturday the 15th, I'm saying these to you so that if one of them is you want to join in, just ping me. Saturday the 15th of October, going down to the Springs for Tony Exum. The next day, Sunday the 16th, we're going to be all the way down in Pueblo with Senator Henriksen. Saturday the 22nd for Malika. Saturday the 29th, again for Exum. Saturday, November 5th for Cutter, 6th for Malika. So those are who we have coming up. So if you want to join us, I found it really fun. And I will leave you with this anecdote or tidbit, I guess, that in Garfield specifically, I'm obviously very proud to be from Denver, but I was a little worried about how that would sound up there, and I completely misread it. Everyone was so tickled that they were like, you came from Denver to knock doors for her? Like the reception was they were pleased, but also they really took it as, oh, y'all must really care about this person winning. Yeah. So that was the reception. We know that's gonna be the reception in Pueblo and across the state, so join us if you can, and see you soon.
Thank you. And it's a great segue into our GOTV efforts. So as we've all said, it's really important that we get out the vote in Denver. What does Mark say, or what's the saying? As Denver goes, so does the state. But there are some very important races that we also keep. So I think, especially those of us who are here in the room, the more efforts we all can put forward in the next couple of weeks will be really important. We are going to try to get this projector set up so I can walk through the scale to win software around how we'll be doing texting. While Sean is trying to get, why don't we just use this one, because we can run off battery for this. Sure. Technical difficulties always. I wanted to give them some updates for GOTV for us here in HD6. So as we have been talking about, the ballots will be mailed out here in less than 2 weeks. This light just flashed, so I think we're getting close. The plan for this week is to really finalize our texting lists, our walking lists, and our emailing, phone calling kind of lists by precinct. Why I say that will continue to happen this week is because it kind of depends on funding. So we need to raise about a little more than $1,000 to hit our goal to be able to text out to everyone that we want. And we've already ordered sample ballots, so that all that work went in last week. So we worked with Mary Jefferson and determined that we wanted to mail ballots to those who were 40 and over and lived in inaccessible buildings that we knew we couldn't get into. So we have selected over 6,000 address locations throughout House District 6 that we sent off the list last week to the party. They are addressing, the printer is printing and addressing and will mail those directly to the homes of those 6,000 people. We also ordered about 6,000 more of the sample ballot postcards that we would have available for all of our precincts to then target walkable buildings or homes within your precinct. We are going off the advice that we try to text and email the age range between 18 and 40, and then we hand out physical ballots for those that are 40 and over. And that is just, I get kind of a nationwide effort that I think that's kind of happening, and an idea of the fact that people, a younger population is more susceptible to phone or texting or email receiving at this point. So, yes.
When you mentioned the ones that the printer is mailing, is it that you're over 40 and in an inaccessible, or is it you are over 40 or you're in an
It's an and, so you're over 40
So
and you're in an accessible building. We're the 6,000, except for Windsor Gardens. Windsor Gardens has an amazing building captain's thing, so they will be getting quite a few of the paper ballots that we have printed, and we'll hand deliver them. It saves us cost on postage that way. So as I said, we are $1,000 short, and so we would love, we have someone who's donated a signed copy of a book. Oh, you get to see my cute niece and nephew. We have a signed copy of The American Republic Can Save American Democracy by Gary Hart that we can give away tonight for a donation, and this anonymous person will also match that donation. So if we have some individuals who want a good read, a signed copy, we'll, awesome, wonderful, thank you so much. And then we'll pass out envelopes, so if anyone can donate, that would be great. We will hopefully have more info exactly on where we are for that soon, but we'd like to try and get another $1,000 to make sure that we have a strong texting budget for the rest of the next 4 or 5 weeks. What we would like to do, and in a second I'm going to walk through Scale to Win images on how the texting software works. It's actually, I used it a couple of years ago during the 2020 election for, not through the Denver party, but a lot of ballot initiatives used it as a resource. And so it's relatively easy. We will do most of the setup on our end, and we will release basically just phone numbers to you, and you literally just kind of go in and hit send, hit send, hit send, then kind of review. Do people have questions? Do they tell you to stop and leave them alone? You know, different things like that. So it's not super time intensive, and you don't have to write your own message. We'll provide the script and all that. The reason that we have to have volunteers offer to do it is because we can't just spam text people, right? So by having individuals go in, select a phone number and hit send, and doing that 400 times, then we're not spamming because it's a one-by-one kind of a situation. So please do not use your personal cell phone, and do not personally text out to individuals. That get us in a lot of trouble. If it's, you know, friends, family, people you already have in your phone, obviously, please go, feel free. But as far as when we pull up precinct lists and text numbers that are textable from Van and do all of that, please do not use your personal cell phone, because that could get us actually in a lot of legal trouble. Same with emailing. If you have, if you'd like to email out some of the, we have a PDF version of the sample ballot. If you'd like to email that out, you're more than welcome to do that, again, to friends, family, people you know, but please do not go into Van and just take out a ton of email addresses and use it, we'll get in trouble for spamming, and we don't want that to happen. So.
We'll have to ask for more money for legal defense costs.
Right. Yeah, we need a lot more money for legal issues. Yes, questions? I'm gonna walk through and show you right here in just a second. Yep.
Do you have the presentation?
It's not actually from a phone. It's a website that you'll log into, and it does it for you. Yeah, it's on the. It's in. It's a tab in
the website, and you can do it through your computer. And as long as you hook into the thing, it'll go through your phone. You won't use your phone.
And I will email out, sorry, I'm kind of jumping around. We thought this training was going to be provided by somebody else, so I'm kind of on the fly trying to figure it out. So bear with me. The idea being the week of, and we were hoping to print this for you all tonight, but due to logistics and some financial issues, we need to make sure we have all of our ducks in a row. But the idea being that this week, we will really work with you all to finalize our list. Sally Ann is offered and does an amazing job of helping us actually pull all of the different precinct lists. Who are we going to text? Who are we going to walk, etc. So thank you, Sally Ann, for your help on that, because it saves us a lot of time. But the idea being that next week, the October 9th through 15th, we will have the physical paper ballots. Karen will most likely be our point of contact, and so you will work with her to pick up those. Then we'll also make sure you're logged into Scale to Win, which is the texting service, and have that set up so that starting October 17th, the day that the ballots will be going out in the mail, you can then start your actual efforts of texting people, walking, phone calling, those kinds of initiatives. And then it's kind of that and / ballot chase. So, if you can do it all in 1 week, great. If it takes you 2 weeks to get out into your precinct, that's fine too. Because we're targeting to get started on October 17th, and we have some extra time. And I think that would be, it's a great opportunity then if you have the ability to go knock doors and can go knock doors for some of these other candidates. That would be great. Thank you again to those of you who helped with postcards, and to thank you to CL. So CL distributed or delivered, we between House District 6 from last meeting and then my initiative sending out emails, we're able to write about close to 2,000 postcards and took them to Lisa's office on Monday. So thank you to CL thank you to everyone who's doing it, and then CL offered to drop them off for me on Monday, which was really helpful. So that's huge, and then we are hoping to make a contribution to her campaign in the next week or so as well, and we're kind of holding off on that because we're hoping to give her a little bit more if we can raise a little bit more funding. So with that, I'll walk through this, and again, bear with me because I'm learning it as you are. Do you want to make sure that this camera is on the screen? It's really hard to read, but well, I'll send it out. It's all right. I'm gonna send it out also. So, what this it's a great question. It's not a phone. It's a website. So you need either a computer, a phone, or a tablet to do it. It's not an app or anything. It's literally a website. You'll get logged into. I will send out. Go ahead, next slide. I will send out a link tonight, hopefully. If you click, and it's very specific to HD6, the link I send, so when you click on it, it from the back end knows you are a precinct organizer or someone who's volunteered in House District 6. Go ahead, next slide. You'll have to go to sign up. You just basically put in your email, a name or a password that you choose, your name, and your phone number. Your phone number never gets attached to the actual texting that happens. It's just part of the sign-up process. Next slide. So you'll get a confirmation that says spoke texting, you have nothing to do. That's because we have to go in and give you something to do, basically. Okay, keep going. So then, once we let you know that we've populated the back end with information, you'll log in and you'll see where it says send first texts up in the corner. So you'll click that, and again, it's just a website. Next slide. Next slide. So then it'll give you an initial, it's kind of hard to read, but the make your voice heard right above the red, is the actual text that you'll be sending. And we'll again pre-populate that. You can always modify it if you want to say something a little bit different, but we'll give you some information to pre-populate.
But try not to too much.
Yeah, don't modify it too much, but I think from my experience doing this again for initiatives in the past, it's best to start with whatever they give you, and then if you do get someone who starts responding to you, then it's you have a little bit more leeway. So, and then you just hit send. Like I said, you literally it pre-populates on the back end. It has however many phone numbers, and then you hit send, and then once you hit send, the next one will pop up, and it'll tell you up in the top right how many you've sent. So if you have 50 for your precinct, as you go through, it'll tell you where you are in your list of 50. Next slide. You can request more texts. I don't know how. I think this is a really good thing to point out. I think, as I was kind of mentioning with Elizabeth earlier, is 6B is pretty strong. Windsor Gardens is pretty strong in POs and activity. We have a lot of missing POs in 6A, and so if you get into the text thing and you're like, this is super easy, I can take on more, we would love to then download, put more numbers in for you. So you can hit the request more, and I think it pings James, but we'll figure out then how to give you more, and we would love for you to be willing to do more if you can.
And we have a sign up if you'd like to volunteer to do that, and you just know it's up there.
Oh, sweet. There's a Sally on the table. There's a sign up if you're willing to do more. So we'll just give you more than that.
So to be clear, the first list that you get will be your precinct.
Correct.
Okay, and then if we want to volunteer, what about if you have volunteers who are not POs?
We can get them. They can sign up through the exact same link we send you. Absolutely, yeah. So if you know people who want, you can give that text or that link for them to sign up with the texting software.
Okay.
Who does it show as the sender?
The
Randomized number.
It says.
the phone number is randomized, but in your message it will say this is the Denver Democratic Party, making sure that you know that your ballot arrived today or whatever. But it's a random phone number. I don't know how that's decided. I'm sure many of you have received texts from this kind of a thing. Some people it's not effective, but it is actually really effective with a lot. I personally will say I way prefer it. So
One other thing is that we're going to have to send 2 texts with our initial text, because we're also going to send, we don't have enough characters, so we're going to send a link that's going to take them to the sample ballots. They can look stuff up. So we're going to send a text with the initial stuff, and James and our leadership is all working on this right now, so that we'll have that, and they'll have this link, and so you'll send like 2.
And they haven't finalized that. I think ideally we won't, just because of the cost. We have to pay for every text sent. So if we send 2 to every person, we pay for that. If you get in I think this is a good information for if you get someone who responds back like, poor language, F you, like, and tries to engage with you, don't engage, because we pay to then engage. So you will get some that say stop. there is a way to mark it, and I can go through that in a second. There's a way to mark it in the system as someone, once they say stop by law, we have to stop. So there's just a button you click that says, opted out or whatever. But if they have a genuine question or they want more resources, please continue to text with them. But if it's someone who is clearly not wanting to engage in a positive way with you, please don't waste your energy and time or our funds at that point, because we do pay per text we send. So not per one received, so if they want to send us a bunch of nasty grams, they can, and we just ignore them.
Do you want to tell them how much it is?
It's
2 cents.
2 cents per text.
And we pay for 50.
And we've paid for 50,000, correct. So we've budgeted for 50,000 texts.
That's if we get that $1,000, right?
No, it's already in.
Oh.
That's what we've already committed to that. We would like to be able to text more than that, and so that's why we were trying to get additional funds. Yes?
Just out of curiosity,
Either way.
I know that
There's no pickup.
the full color print sample ballots are extremely expensive. How do they compare cost to?
Great question. So, and actually I have the PDF on my computer, so I'll pull it up in a second of what the sample ballots look like. We have a QR code that we can email. We have the PDF sample ballot, and then we have the printed sample ballot. The printed sample ballot only came, it was pretty, I think because we ordered so many as an entire county, they came out to 25 cents a card. And it was
75 cents for a card plus postage.
Yeah, the ones that we mailed were 75 cents. So that was postage, but just the ones that we are picking up and will hand deliver are only 25 cents. So it came out, and they did a really nice job. I'll pull it up, of doing Spanish on one side, English on the other side. And so when you print it, even the PDF is that way. So if you want to, so this is the other thing, sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. If you want the PDF, we will send out. If you want to print that on your own dime and distribute it, you are absolutely more than welcome to, either at home or however you choose to do that. Just make sure you're following, a lot of workplaces have very clear policies around not using company printers and things, so just be very cautious of those kinds of things. But you are welcome to do that on your own dime or using your own resources. And you can make it, like I said, double-sided if you want, for the English and the Spanish. Let's walk through this a little bit more. And I know that it's after 8, so if you need to go, I totally understand. We're going to try and wrap up here really quickly. And we will send all of these resources out tonight for the short term, and then we'll send a much longer email next week once we have the finalized things figured out. Okay, so here's how do you respond. So if it'll say respond and it'll light up with a number if you have people who've actually responded back to you. Next slide. So you can click on that, and then this is what it looks like when you have a response. So like you're the white, what they said back is in blue. Next slide.
You want to go through the opt-out?
Yeah, I think the slides go through it. I want to make sure. Okay, keep going. You can tag them. I don't think we're going to worry about tagging them or anything, but if that changes, I'll let you know. There will be some preloaded replies like, great question, here's the link to the Denver Democrats webpage that lists how we suggest you vote on the different ballot initiatives or different things like that. So there will be some preloaded replies, but feel free to, answer the question that, the best that you feel like it makes sense. Next slide. So here's an example of some preloaded replies. Next slide. So then you hit send once you either type in your reply or you select it. Next slide. When you're all done, you want to make sure and close and save. Next slide. Okay. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. I think it's towards the end. We're going to skip tags. Here we go. So if someone texts back, stop, don't text me, remove me, unsubscribe me, etc., you're going to hit the red opt out on the bottom of the screen, and then it does the rest of it basically for us. There is an option, next slide. Yeah, so you have to confirm that you're opting them out. I think there is potentially an ability that you can mark them as hostile or different things, but I don't see that on this one, so I'm not gonna worry about it. But yeah, I think it's a tag. So, but that's another just important thing to make sure is that if they say stop, all that, we just mark them that way. That way, it protects us too from that non-accidentally texting them again through this process. So, and then, yeah, when you're, if you, let's say you volunteer to take on more, and you know, it's been 2 days and you haven't had a chance to get to them, you can then release your text, so it sends them back to us and says, okay, these ones still need to be texted. So, but we can see that from the back end, so if we don't hear something, we might contact you and say, hey, it looks like, you know, do you feel like you're gonna have time to do this? If not, please just release the text back to us and we'll assign someone else to do it. Next slide, I think that's it. Yep. So we will send all this out. It's not, you can click on the link that I'll send you and get your account set up, but nothing will be in there until like the 17th. So just, I don't want people to panic that it's, you know, the information's not in there. Again, we are working with Sally Ann and the party to get all of it figured out and loaded into the system before, you know, it'll be ready for go time. Question?
Yeah, real quick question. When you said you're going to send it out, who are you sending it out to? Is it just the precinct organizers? Or who are you sending
I will send it out to our precinct organizers from a direct email from me, since some precinct organizers are not getting our NGP. We'll also send it out to our email list through NGP so that people who aren't POs who want to volunteer can volunteer. Because I think due to the funding and then also just kind of the difference in how people are responding to things right now, we do think that we'll lean pretty heavily on texting. And so if we can get extra people to help, it would be great. Yes?
So are the text responses coming back to us in real time? Or are we going back in to check the stops?
Great question. Both. So and I just know from doing this in 2020, I did it for 3 different ballot initiatives. I would sit down for like an hour at night and like watch some crappy television show and just be doing it. And so while I'm sitting there, I am getting some immediate responses back. Or like the next night, I'd log back in and I'd see, oh look, I have 3 responses. And a lot of them we don't get a response at all, and that's totally fine. It doesn't mean that they didn't click on our link and go to our sample ballot, or it still doesn't mean that they didn't be like, oh yeah, I need to fill out my ballot, and fill it out and then go turn it in, kind of a thing. So don't worry if you don't get them back. That we know that we're still activating people even if they don't respond. Elizabeth, and then
offer that we use these and we flew through them. People consistently, volunteers there weren't enough numbers left, and you get messages, you know, you used too many. Like, it was easy, it was relatively fun, people were kind, it was good. So,
and because we're not doing, I mean, the lists that we're picking are registered Democrats or lean Democrats. We're not on an issue, so it's mainly just please vote, complete your ballot, bottoms up is our saying this year, bottoms up. In fact, while I'm still answering questions, I'll pull up the link. I think I actually just did it recently. Question?
Yeah. I know, I was going to ask you, will this be somehow tracked or updated in advance for future? So that you know that you have
Yes.
people who are not hostile to...
Great question. I need to confirm with James, but I know that the information gets downloaded, and then I believe, I don't know if it's James or who, someone then uploads it to Van at some point. So.
We were unable to, when we were using ban, mark people as do not call in ban because the state party kind of locked that down
Yeah, I'll follow up from James and find out if we're, Sally Ann, do you know if we're transferring it or?
TCPs do not have that permission. It's limited to those who have administrative privileges.
Right.
We cannot change the address. We can eliminate, we can add in the phone number, we can eliminate the phone number, we can add a do not text, or at least eliminate text bulk.
Right.
It may come back again, but that's all we can do. So if
I think the only thing.
you should be able to go in and make changes, you should be able to go in and remove somebody who's textable.
I think, Sally Ann, let's not, we're not gonna have anyone, don't worry about going into Van from texting it. James will work with the party to make sure that we've done what we legally need to do to make sure we mark things correctly for the future. My understanding, and most of you have probably experienced this, you say stop and then you get another one from the next candidate. It doesn't matter that you said stop to one candidate, you're gonna get, and my understanding, again, from 2 years ago when I did it, is that the law is based on that specific campaign doing it, so you have to continue to say stop to every single one, I'm now on the national list, so I get bombarded daily, and I have to say stop to every single one if I don't want to get it. This is the sample ballot. Again, the PDF version of it, I will email it. We will email out the link, but front English, back Spanish. The initiatives that we took a position on only. So it's the initiatives that we, as the Denver Dems 2-3 weekends ago, took a position on. And I believe it also has the ones on the bottom that the state took a position on? No,
They said they were gonna give us a link.
Okay. But there's this QR code on it too that gives more information. It provides other languages and all of that. So the other thing to know is if you copy or take like a screenshot of this QR code and email it or text it or whatever, that QR code will continue to work for everything else. So I will provide the link, the QR code, all of those things. And then the other thing is that the Denver party, let's see if I have it up here. I don't. Is it on the main page yet or not? I can't remember. The link is something vote. It's of course not going to come up. There's Ling and Francie, who are our amazing communications volunteers, have created a short URL that's like Denver Dems vote or something like that. That will a bit.ly, that will immediately take you to a website they've created that has like the link for how to check to make sure where you're registered. Is your registration at the right address? It has a ton of resources on it, so you'll receive that as well. And again, that's another thing you can easily, we created it, the bit.ly or the short version, so that it's relatively easy to remember, even though I can't remember it right now. So.
Are we ignoring unaffiliated voters?
We're not ignoring them. I think we will include them potentially if we can financially do it in our texting. We are not including them in our mailing and our physical things just because we don't have the money to do it. But if we can do it from our texting budget, we will include them. It'll kind of depend in the next week how we do in our fundraising.
Can I ask just a financial, philosophical question? I have trouble that we're not going after unaffiliated leaning Democrats and we're giving money to Lisa Cutter. I sort of feel like we need to take care of our home base. This House district had an 80+% voting record, but it was because of a lot of investments, and a lot of those people are unaffiliated.
Well,
So
and I think we did actually mail two.
So, to address your question, yes, we are concerned about that. So, what we've done is we haven't committed to what we're going to give Lisa Cutter because we need to take care of our own district first. So, a lot of that is with texting because that's the only economical way we can really reach those unaffiliated voters. We simply can't print enough. There's just too many people in our district. We don't have enough money or enough people to walk. So, we do have 50,000 texts. We have a cushion. So if we need 100,000 texts to reach those unaffiliated voters and we have volunteers to do it, we're going to pay for it. And Lisa Cutter will just build it into the budget, and she may not get what we anticipated. It all depends on how fundraising works the next week. But that's kind of why we're squishy on how much we're donating. It's because we want to take care of our district first.
Well, what are we doing within the coming week to try to get some money?
Well, we had a meeting tonight.
And we're gonna ask everybody
and we're
to
sending
please
out,
donate.
and we're going to send out an email with all this information as well, with a link to donate. So between those two activities and just getting on the, doing it old school.
And, we talk about this every time. I think, hopefully sometime we'll get better at our timing a little bit. I mean, we just had the Denver Dems fundraiser 4 nights ago. We just got our budget today. Like the county officers are working as fast as they can. We're everyone's working as fast as they can. We don't even have the scripts and everything to load into Skill to Win yet because it's our 2 volunteers who are in the process of writing everything. So, we're working as fast as we can. But as we literally found out today where we were financially and where that meant we needed to be in the long run. And it's not anyone's fault, like everyone's working, but we just finished one fundraiser and, so. Yeah. So, with that being said, you can go online, obviously, and donate. We will be sending out emails asking for additional donations and that we have this amount of money, and then we will be sending out information, follow-up information. I'm going to do my best to get it out tonight. It'll depend on how late I'm here, and now I'm traveling for work for 4 days, so I'm going to do my best to get it out tonight before I leave at 5 o'clock in the morning. But if it's delayed, that is why. It's not that I forgot. It's just that I've got to get that all done before a flight in the morning. So. Thank you. We're here to answer questions. There's some signs if you want for some of the ballot initiatives. If you don't mind helping putting away chairs and tables, that would be great. Sally Ann? Wonderful, thank you. Sally Ann just said she'll work with Windsor Gardens to see if we can get some additional donations as well. So thank you very much, Sally Ann, we appreciate that.
By the way, the Denver Public Library, I think will allow you 10 copies.
Oh, great. Good to know. Denver Public Library, you can do 10 free copies a day. So thank you so much.
Meeting adjourned.
Meeting adjourned.